Coming up on Smart Tech today, Matthew Cassinelli and I kick off the show talking about that hilarious ALEXA advertisement starring Michael B. Jordan and show you Mikah D. Sargent as well. Plus, we talk about ways and show you how to share songs that you like with your friends who have Echo devices. We also spend some time talking about how smartwatches can help detect early signs of COVID-19, and Matthew shares some incredible shortcuts that I'm calling Toolkits to help you listen to and enjoy podcasts. It's all that plus our picks of the week coming up on Smart Tech Today.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Gabi Insurance. You're probably overpaying on car and home insurance, so see how much Gabi can save you. It's totally free to check, and there's no obligation. Just go to gabi.com/STT. Welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. Things. I added an echo there in post. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent, and I am joined across the internet by my co-host, host. What's your name?
It's Matthew Cassinelli. Hello. I just cheered myself on. I don't know. How you doing?
Yeah. I'm doing well, and I'm going to stop doing that. I don't know why I started doing that, but I'm going to stop now. Welcome back, folks out there who are returning listeners, or welcome for the first time to folks who are not returning listeners. My first request for you is, I almost did it again just then. I don't know why this echo thing is sticking with me, but it will be a good segue into our topics today. Anyway, point is, those of you who are listening to this show, it would mean the world to us if you would go out and rate and review our show in Apple Podcasts. It's a very simple process. You hop in to the Apple Podcast library and you can add some stars for the stars that you feel we deserve. Or if you want to take that even farther, the better thing, the super awesome thing, is to also leave a review where you write some text. Process is a little complicated, a little confusing. And so we've got this great video for you that my co-host on iOS Today, Rosemary Orchard, she walks you through the whole process. And so if you go to twit.tv, if you go to instagram.com/twit.tv, you will find the video there. And you know what? I'm also going to include a link to it in our show notes today so that you can leave a review if you would like. We would very much appreciate that. So just putting that out there. It helps folks. You like the show and, you want us to keep the show going and keep the show rolling along. Merrily we roll along. And the best way to do that is to make sure that other folks can hear this episode and can see this episode and all of the episodes of the show. So, yeah, just head to the Apple Podcast library. And the reason I bring that up is because that's the best library for actually getting reviews. Some of the other ones have started to kind of build that in, but not quite to the level that Apple Podcasts is. So even if you're not an Apple Podcast user for the most part, it would be absolutely amazing if you took the time to go there and do that. We appreciate it. All right, Matthew Cassinelli. Last week, we answered some really great questions and responded to some really awesome feedback. But this week, we are back to what they've come to expect from us with Smart Tech Today. And that is starting with the news. So what's up first in the news?
So this, I'll say the big game moment has already passed, but there's an awesome Amazon ad for their ALEXA and the new body that it could have. So this is an awesome commercial where one of the, I think the person is supposed to be on Amazon's team thinking of what could make the Echoes even better. And the whole premise is that I guess I'll be the one describing this. Michael B. Jordan has like blue irises, like the little ring around the top of your Echoes, and he's the one that's the new body for Echo. That is the only improvement that this woman needs. And the whole commercial is Michael B. Jordan like quietly whispering audiobooks to her, and her husband is like, "What the heck is going on over here?" He's like, "No, stop, don't do that." So we're playing the commercial, and we'll link it in the notes too. But this is just a great ad. I always love Amazon does do a great job with their ads, and I wish they had a little more fun with Siri at Apple, but definitely check this out.
Yeah, this was particularly, I think, a good one. When I watched this, because I didn't end up watching the Super Bowl. In fact, I was watching This Week in Tech last weekend before the Super Bowl. And then by the time This Week in Tech was over, it was like halftime, I think, and I didn't really care. My mom loves the Kansas City Chiefs. Originally, I'm from Missouri, from St. Joseph, Missouri, which is about 45 minutes away, 30 minutes if you're driving Missouri style, from Kansas City. And so she is just the biggest Chiefs stan there is. And so when I heard that they were not doing so hot and that old Tom Brady was winning, then I didn't really have any interest in tuning in to see that really take place. Just not my thing. But I went to some page online that had the information about all the different, it had collected all of the Super Bowl ads, and so I definitely checked all of them, or as many of them as I could find out on that page. And I was laughing pretty doggone hard at the ALEXA one. I think that Amazon knocked it out of the park with that. And it was just like, it was the right amount of funny. It was the right amount of showing what ALEXA could do. And I appreciated that I think they really pulled it off. So whoever was in charge of creating that advertisement deserves a thumbs up from from the team. Deserves a raise for sure, because I think that was pretty good. And I agree with you. I think Siri and to some extent the Google Assistant would benefit from some fun that is not present in those applications. I'm curious, what would that look like to you? What do you think that would look like? What would a funny Siri ad involve?
The first one I go to is the one they did with The Rock, which was pretty silly, where it was like how he got his entire day done, but like as a superhero. And I literally have a poster of it. Should I guess that's terrible audio, but I literally have the poster in my closet right now because I worked there when they gave them around to people, because they were like, we don't want these anymore. So,
really?
Yeah, it's absurd. I feel like that should be some sort of giveaway thing at some point. It's like, I don't know, the 500th member or something.
Yeah, I guess I don't remember that. So wait, this was Siri, or this was?
It was Siri in the times The Rock saves the day kind of thing. And it was like, pretty, I think it was widely panned, I would say, in the Apple
I remember that
community. Yeah. I mean, it was just absurd. And I think it was like the first real advertising they ever really did with Siri beyond that. But maybe they did get made fun of a little too much. So, and Apple's not going to do basically a sexy Michael B. Jordan one. So
yeah, that one could be a little uncomfortable, I think, for Apple. It was a little bit full of heat, I would say. Yeah. But I don't know.
Lights, and then he takes off his shirt as he's turning off the lights, and the husband's like, turn it back on, turn it back on.
I want those lights back on right now. Yeah, that doesn't quite match Apple's. And the interesting thing is, I would say perhaps of all of the smart assistants, Siri tends to be, although Siri does kind of get panned for having sarcastic responses, Siri doesn't have as many sort of joke answers as the rest of them. So where Siri's humor comes in is kind of in a bad place, which is by annoyingly responding to queries that you ask it, where it kind of will add some color in that way. But the other smart assistants, it seems, tend to do the way that they kind of add to the conversation is through or the way that they kind of do the funny bits, I guess, is by adding them kind of in more expected ways, but not with points of failure. And so it doesn't feel as annoying whenever they happen. Folks are more likely to find them actually funny versus being, this annoyance that takes place. At least that's how it works for me.
The worst one for me is when I say like play relaxing music and it's like now playing your relaxation station. And I'm like, I'm trying to relax. And it's like being annoying. And it's like, shut up. Like, I hate it. And that's always just like, I'm trying to chill out. And it's like, it's like, okay, get out of here.
Go home. We don't want you here. Now, did we see anything from the Google Assistant at during the Super Bowl?
I did not watch as many videos, so I didn't check for that one. Actually, I don't know if they did a main. Yeah, I see some. No, doesn't seem like it. Boring.
Isn't working.
Oh, your eyes are blue. I love it.
I've only I should have prepared this before the show, but I just had this thought of, I could probably pull this off.
How are you doing? A zoom filter?
Of course, mine aren't moving. They're just a nice overlay. But alas, I too can be
the thumbnail.
I too could be the ALEXA for you. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan pulls it off far better than I could. But
what's your middle initial?
Yeah, mine is D.
Mikah D. Sargent.
Mikah D. Sargent, Michael B. Jordan. Okay, maybe I could do that. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Sure. Basically, I just wanted to keep that conversation going so I could finish that stupid joke I was working on. For those of you who are listening and not watching, I worked a way to make my irises blue for the sake of those of you watching. Anyway, there's a new feature within the Echo, within ALEXA, that lets you share songs to your friends' Echo devices. So you can, there might be a new song that you want somebody to check out, and you can say, hey, you should hear this song and actually share it. And as Engadget points out, they don't even have to have the same music service. And that, Matthew Cassinelli, I think, is the brilliance of this feature. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems neat, especially for just a very simple way of, especially if you're in this ecosystem, everything probably is hands-free, and to have to pull out your phone to send it to somebody is like, you're just not going to do it. And if it is enabled via voice, just like, send this to Mikah, and then you can enjoy it too. And they didn't exactly explain what the reaction can be, but there's like a way to react to if you liked it or not, sort of thing. So this will be interesting. They're just now introducing it, like, I think today or just recently. So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves too. They're like, this is just the beginning. So pretty neat.
Yeah. So
again, go ahead.
I was going to say, so the Engadget article says you can try the feature by enabling ALEXA communications. If you're not sure about the context that can receive a song, you can start a new message to see who's available. So I have that turned on, and I think, let me see if I can message Matthew Cassinelli. Yeah, there he is. And how do I send a song?
I think you have to be listening to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're checking through the app, right?
Sorry, Matthew. I can't send you a song right now because I'm not listening to a song.
I'm waiting for it. Well, do I even have this I forget that you can communicate through here just because it's being on iOS. Oh, voice message from Mikah.
I love that it's got a transcript built
Sorry,
in as
Matthew,
well.
I can't send you a song right now because I'm not listening to the song.
Thanks, Mikah.
Yes, so it says Amazon is rolling out a music sharing feature that lets you share songs with ALEXA contacts using Echo devices or the ALEXA app. Ask the voice assistant to share this song with a contact, and they can. Okay, I'm going to try this. We're going to try this. I know these little demos almost always are terrible and never work, but here we are. This is what we do on Smart Tech Today. We try tech. So I think a song that would work is the Happy Birthday song. So let's see. I'll start there. One sec. I'm just going to mute for while I say ALEXA, and then I will unmute. Play the Happy Birthday song.
Okay, let's do this. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Happy
Will that work? 'Cause it's not
birthday
a real
to you.
song.
Share this song with Matthew Cassinelli.
There doesn't seem to be any music playing.
Oh, see, so that was a built-in ALEXA feature.
Hey to you.
Okay, one sec.
He stayed
Circle
muted,
of
but
Life from The Lion King by Tina Guo from Mikah's Spotify.
Mikah's Spotify. I'm Mikah, by the way. And now I say, share this song with Matthew Cassinelli.
Did you mean Matthew Cassinelli?
I did, yes.
Mikah
Did you
and
mean
Cassinelli.
Matthew Cassinelli?
Yes.
Sending the song The Circle of Life from The
Ooh.
Lion King by Tina Guo to Matthew
Got
Cassinelli.
it. I can send
And
a reaction
now,
emoji back to you.
and he sent a reaction. All I heard was just a little note, but I've got a little notification here. What's that notification?
One new notification. Mikah Sargent has new messages. Try saying, play my messages.
Play my messages.
One for Mikah Sargent. From Matthew Cassinelli. Matthew Cassinelli reacted with laugh to the song you shared, The Circle of Life, from The Lion King, by Tina Guo. Received just now.
And
To access all your messages, just go to the Communicate section in the app.
and there you go. There you
Thank-
have it.
We save so much. You save so much time. The way she like enunciates every step of it multiple times all the way down through is like, okay.
I do like this idea as, again, so I use Spotify with ALEXA, and it shared it with you through ALEXA Music. But in theory, you would be able to play it through the music service that you use with your Echo.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why I like this, is because I want this to be a feature that's available to, or a thought that all kind of vendors take into account. Because when I find a song that I really like, I mostly listen with Apple Music. And I use Spotify, and I've talked before about why I have a subscription to Apple Music and to Spotify. So I'm not going to go into it. Basically, Apple Music is my main service that I listen to. My partner, however, his main service is Spotify. And so when I find a song that I really want him to listen to, what I do is I use a shortcut, yes, that translates the song from the Apple Music link to the Spotify link and then send it to him. But it would be nice to not even have to go there. What shortcut?
Is it using SongLink or something like that? Or?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think it takes the title of the song and then searches for it in the Spotify library and then sends it that way. So it could get it wrong, but it puts up a confirmation. But I don't think it should even go that far. In the same way that on my Mac and now even on iOS, I can choose my default email provider, my default browser. I think that my default music service should be one of those options, so that when there's a song link, it automatically within the system translates that to the proper music service that I'm using. And that is what this is doing. I'd love to see this feature come to all these other devices as well in the same way, that it kind of takes things farther. Now, Amazon, according to the Engadget article, characterized this as, quote, just the beginning of the sharing feature, hinting at possible upgrades in the future. So it, there could be other ways to share other types of content with the system. So maybe what I'd love is you're listening to a podcast and you say, oh, can you share the last 20 seconds with Matthew Cassinelli? And then it takes a clip of that podcast and pops it over to you. Or a funny bit from a show. Oh, you should check out this show. Look at this scene. This was a really funny scene. That would be really cool.
I could make a shortcut that does. No, I was going to say there's seek actions. I'm doing a pain face on the camera. There's like actions in shortcuts that can seek to specific moments. And I think I can't remember if it works for the Apple TV or not. But I've done that to like start a song at a certain point when I wanted to show it to someone. But yeah, I agree. A much more native approach would be cool. And that's why this is especially the voice first thing it makes it even better.
Yeah. So what's next?
This other one is fairly quick, but always significant, is the ALEXA app is also getting light and dark mode and dynamic type. So this is an article from Stephen Aquino, who we've referenced multiple times, who always writes about accessibility stuff. And this is just another good quality of life improvement for people who use the Amazon app regularly, or the I'm trying really hard not to say it, the ALEXA app regularly. Especially, I think this is even more important because of what the stories we've covered in the past, where it is now basically a full functional Echo device itself that listens when you have the app open. So I think this is another step of Amazon emphasizing just using the actual app as opposed to only the voice assistant, especially with all the type to ALEXA stuff and things like that. So this is always great. And as of course he goes into detail mentioning, it's just like this stuff is incredibly important for people who have accessibility needs, because not supporting the stuff on a system level just creates issues. So nice to see, and good quality of life for people with accessibility needs, which is a huge market for who Amazon serves originally. So just to kind of leave them in the dark on iOS, I guess that wasn't a pun because there is dark mode, but to let them into the dark, I don't know.
Yes, to follow them into the dark. We can go Death Cab for Cutie reference. Yeah, that's great. And I don't know, I like of course, I think most people get really celebratory about light mode, dark mode being added to things. So it's nice to see another service doing that as well. Let us move on to Apple, where the first story is about, I think there have been several studies now that have looked at how a smartwatch, I think one of the early studies was about smartwatches in general, or wearables in general, that track different things, being used to diagnose COVID-19 even up to a week before someone realizes they need to get tested. So this is a study out of Mount Sinai, and it is, of course, a peer-reviewed article published in the Journal of Medical Internet Research. Some of you may know it as JOMR. I, being a former science reporter, definitely recognize JOMR more than Journal of Medical Internet Research. And it has revealed that wearable hardware, and in this case, the Apple Watch, effectively predicted a positive COVID-19 diagnosis up to a week before current PCR-based nasal swab tests. So this study used a magical metric, it seems. It's kind of wild how much of a cheat code it is when we look at HRV, which is heart rate variability, and use that as a marker for so many things. Heart rate variability, it kind of does what it says on the tin there. It is the variability between someone's heartbeats. So it it registers a heartbeat, and then it registers another heartbeat, and then it registers another heartbeat, and it looks at the space kind of between them. And if your nervous system is working as it should, you're going to see a lot of variability between your different heartbeats because your nervous system is properly communicating with your heart to make slight adjustments to your like oxygen getting pushed throughout your entire body. And we've been able to discover that if there's less variability, then it's likely that your body is tired for many given reasons, and that might be causing, that might be the result of stress or lack of sleep or other things that are causing stress. And what's wild is that these researchers seem to have discovered that HRV can also be used to determine COVID-19 diagnoses based on the symptoms that end up happening, fever, aches, dry cough, gastrointestinal issues, and other things like that, where those came later. Having that diagnosis via HRV and the stress and strain on a person's nervous system came earlier than those symptoms. Yeah. So really cool, right?
Yeah, it makes sense, especially just it starts before it gets worse, I guess. And so this is just like, you do have probably pretty regular trends in your heart rate variability, accounting for other life events and things like that. But I think this is super powerful. They've been doing this stuff since the beginning of COVID. I think it was this study specifically we had mentioned, because it was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense, but you don't want to get ahead of yourself, essentially. But now that they're doing it, it could make sense that it's just like an early indicator. Hey, your HRV is a little different than normal. Like, were you exposed, kind of thing, especially combined with the exposure system in there. And it sounds like it could be pretty powerful. But as always with the medical community, they don't want to start promising that it can do this before it can actually get proven out and make sure it works. And it's not studied by Apple or paid for by Apple, which is always important too. It's like, oh, this works great. Buy our Apple Watch now, or something like that. So hopefully we can see more of this soon. But it's just one of those things where you're like, we can probably confirm this, and then they're like, yeah, we now can. So it makes sense to push it even further. Oh,
I'm not sure I understand.
My iPad just went off.
Oh,
what
Siri,
did I say?
Silly Siri.
Siri ability.
That's always a fun game to play in a smart home, is your partner saying something and then going, I didn't say, and then you go, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, yeah, it kind of sounds like that. Okay, I get why you did that. It's fun to play that little game. And I think Amazon is one of the companies that has been and continues to work on giving answers to those queries when they happen. You can say, what just happened? And in some cases, it will be able to explain why it did whatever action it just did. And I think that's incredibly important in restoring or maintaining trust for users, because doing the wrong thing in a situation where trust and privacy is a factor is not a good look. And so if you can help to educate the user on why something happened, I think that's really important.
Totally. Or I wish you could correct it too. Like we call one of our rooms the big room, and then it gets confused with the bedroom. And even when my girlfriend very specifically enunciates big room, it's like, I turn the bedroom lights on, and you're like, oh my God.
No,
and then I do it and it works.
Exactly. Of course. That's how it works here too. Something that he's unable to do, then I do it and it works just fine. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not my fault. I really don't know what it was that you did that was different from what I did. I'm sorry.
Why are you doing this?
And then I get in trouble. Basically, these smart speakers are just working to undermine me at all times because they know I'm watching them. What's next? Back. I'm really excited about this update to this app.
Yes, Home Plus 5 is a HomeKit power user app, and it's always been one of those ones that exposes more features than HomeKit. They make it available, but they just don't show it to you. So it's always a little bit weird. But they did kind of take inspiration from the current Home app with a little description in the article of just like, they don't want it to be confusing when you switch from the Home app to another one. So this is pretty much the same thing, plus Home plus. Okay. But some of the features that they added were folders for automations to get them grouped together. So that's definitely something that I'm going to be using because
you
I
love
have about
folders.
30 NFC things. Yeah. Well, I love organization. Oh, if it means folders, I'll take it. But it's the reason why. I don't just love holding folders next to me or something like that.
Sure, you don't.
Yeah, okay. But then you
like
can also
SpongeBob,
back things up.
like Krabby Patties, don't you, Matthew?
You
Sorry, go ahead.
Hugging a folder over here. So then they've also got backups, which is just helpful, especially with HomeKit stuff. You never want to be in a situation where you have to set everything up from scratch again. Smart groups to kind of combine a series of features and zones and things like that all together, and then favorites and other features. But one of the nice things about this is that it's $15 one time, no subscription sort of thing. So, and it's available if you've bought it in the past. So please go buy this app because if you love HomeKit and you want to do more with it, because it's just kind of like what the Home app should be on top now, especially now that it's nicer. And it's just going to make, especially if you have an iPad, to make your experience better because you can kind of have that big grid up and do what you want without kind of getting stuck in some of the esoteric things of the Home app. So highly recommend.
Yeah, I was going to say that's where it's really great is on iPad, having this app kind of be front of the screen and all of the controls that are hidden to users, I think that you wouldn't normally see. Confusingly, at least last time I checked, in the App Store, it is listed as, well, let's see. I think they might have finally updated it. So when I first, good. Okay, good. Matthias has updated it now. It used to be called Home Plus 4, and it was just the latest version that was Home Plus 5. But it looks like the App Store has updated to display Home Plus 5, so that's good. But yes, some of the controls you don't get in the Home app, they're technically there and available, but Apple kind of doesn't surface them. And so this app lets you just dig really deep into the roots of what HomeKit enables in a very well-designed interface. And the developer continues to improve upon it always. And so, yeah, it's well worth that $15 to keep it funded even, just because it's good and it deserves to exist.
Mm-hmm.
I love this next story about Nanoleaf. So what's going on with Nanoleaf?
This is the line that we talked about, I think a month or so ago, but their Essentials line of the just normal light bulbs and things like that have gotten HomeKit adaptive lighting and color scenes, which is a nice sort of quality of life thing there, but also I think worth noting because the expansion of adaptive lighting has been, I think, a welcome change. I am curious now to check in a little bit on your experience using it, but especially this is just like Nanoleaf stuff is otherwise expensive, and these are only $20, and so this is a pretty solid way to get in and have that adaptive lighting and color scene stuff with more basic light bulbs or the 80-inch starter kit light strip for $50. So.
It's really good prices.
Cool panels are more expensive, but
yeah, exactly. It's really good prices from a company that makes very, very good hardware. And these bulbs are really good looking. And as you point out, the prices are great. And lumens, as you know, I kind of rate the value of a bulb based on its luminance output because that's the important thing to me. I want to, if I'm going to have lights, I want them to be able to get very bright and then they can just dim down to lower. But speaking of the HomeKit adaptive lighting, for folks who don't know, this is a lighting method within it's a HomeKit system, but it is set up with different developers can kind of make use of it. And Philips Hue is one of the first to do it. And so you choose the lights that you want to participate in it. And then in the app, for anybody who's used the Home app, they can pull up the little screen that has the brightness value slider. And then below it are the different colors that you can change the color of the bulb to. And I think there are 6 little circles of different colors that you can choose from. But if your light becomes a HomeKit adaptive lighting light, then the first of those colors is devoted to HomeKit adaptive lighting. And the way that it works is throughout the day, it changes the color temperature value depending on the time of day related to sunrise and sunset, and then also depending on the brightness of the bulb itself. So let me explain. In the morning, when you wake up and you turn on the light, if you turn it on to 100% brightness, then the color is going to be a bright and colder light, more akin to the sun, direct sunlight. But if you take that slider and you take the brightness and turn it down, as you bring the brightness down, it also lightly adjusts the color temperature to make it more warm. Now, at the start of the day, the sort of, the variation between the brightest and the darkest, that range of color temperature is going to be more cold. So brightest is, direct sunlight, say, and darkest is soft white. But then as you get closer to the sun setting and then to the sun setting, the brightest value is going to be a lot warmer, so more akin to soft white. And then the darkest value is going to be, almost orange or red in color. So it is not only adapting the color temperature throughout the day just on its own, but it is also remaining adaptive based on how bright or dark the light is itself. And I leave my lights on this almost all the time. They just stay on adaptive lighting because I really like how it's set up. The only time whenever it changes is when I'm purposely trying to make, a mood or something for a television show where you want the light to be blue or purple or some other color. But outside of that, I almost never change those lights to anything other than what they are with the HomeKit adaptive lighting because it works that well.
How much do you notice I notice the brightness intensity level changing it a lot, even just because in the app it literally is showing you that it's changing orange as you dim it. But sometimes I do feel like in the evening it's still pretty bright above me and doesn't figure it out on its own well, or just doesn't seem like even at like 10 p.m. it'll still kind of be whitish when I would prefer just like the straight yellow of what most lights are. Even if people are watching, like the ones that I have that aren't adaptive lighting, it never seems to change to that yellow of a color, even in the evening and things like that. It could be like scenes and automations too are triggering something that wasn't set with adaptive lighting. So that's probably it.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say is that you have to be careful about what scenes and what automations you have set up because in many cases what you need to do is go back into those scenes and automations and reset the settings so that you choose that first color, that circle that's got the HomeKit adaptive lighting choice, and then make sure that the hue bridge itself doesn't have special automation set up. So if you've set up automations with the hue motion sensor within the within the Hue app and not within the Home app, then that's going to make adjustments to it too. This is kind of in the same way that the security, the video security system for HomeKit enabled cameras is a kind of an all-in system. that's how the adaptive lighting works too. It's pretty much an all-in system. And if you sort of step outside of the Home app and try to do other things, then it will mess with that. And so, yeah, I would be curious if throughout the day, if you've got any automations or scenes set up, if those are then adjusting the color temperature improperly, because mine do seem to be very, they do get rather warm at night.
Well, I just double checked, and that is the case. So there we go. Problem solved. Good. My motion thing was setting it back to the whiter one. So that'll be interesting. I guess I can report back next week of how it worked in the evening, because there have been some times where I'm like sitting here at night and I'm like, I don't know, I'm like wide awake because the lights are way too bright. And I don't have all of my devices set to it yet. So I want to see the Nano, or no. Why can't the Life X get this? Because that's the main one that's stopping me.
I'm waiting for that.
I have other lights that just can't do it at all, but this is possible. Although they've had their HomeKit reliability isn't as great as I had hoped, even though I do like the light itself.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Oh well, it's still.
That's one of the disappointments.
Get there one day.
I wish that the light strip, I hope that they come out with a new light strip that's better for that, because I've got one behind me, and of all of the products that I have set up for HomeKit, because I've got a scene that just turns on all the lights, and that one is always the one that's got a delay built into it. Or that comes up because of it. And that's just frustrating, because everything else just works automatically. But this one product and this one light strip ends up causing the issues that I have with that scene. So it's a little frustrating. I'm changing the colors right now of it. And when I'm using the app, it works just fine. But when and by the app, I mean the app from LifeX. But when I am using the Home app, then sometimes it will not work as I expect it to. And that's frustrating, because you want it to work. Okay.
I would say if people are thinking about bulbs now, though, I would recommend getting one that supports adaptive lighting, because eventually you're probably going to want it. And just
if you're a HomeKit home
is
right.
Yeah, that's fair. But even like I used to recommend the Hue normal, whatever they're called, the ones that didn't have color changing, because I didn't really think it was worth it most of the time to change your color. To basically the product cost twice as much. But now that it has that natural lighting thing and it happens automatically, I'd say that is more worth it now. Whether or not you can afford to spend it, set up your entire home with that is a different story. Like, there's no way I would have as many lights right now if I had gone this route. So kind of got to pick and choose as you go.
Exactly. I was going to say an over time kind of thing is not bad, because I just have a lot of, or in other places, I have a lot of just plain LED bulbs, and instead it is the thing that they're plugged into, or the light switch on the wall that is the the part that makes it smart. And so I had to either choose. So for my office, I've got a fan that has 3 lights. And so for my office, I chose 5000K color temp, which is colder. Whereas, for my kitchen, I chose 2400K, which is warmer, because that was a shared space. Whereas the office, I want to have as kind of cold light as possible, so that the adjustments that I make to my camera are, more based on the camera itself versus the light kind of interacting with that. And so, that is kind of the choice that you have to make. And over time, you can start to add to it too. And that's, I think, what a lot of people have done. So, take your time to build it out if you want, and then it'll get there. Yeah. Up next is the one that we all love to mispronounce. It's not Adobe, it's Abode. What's Abode doing? Abode, yeah.
This is the security system service, or at least I guess this article is about their specific HomeKit security system, and the app that they use for it now allows for shortcut support, and they've got a nice little widget. And so I want to encourage developers, especially of smart home products, whether or not you have HomeKit support, to add shortcuts support, because it just enables that deeper functionality, especially since the control home in action in shortcuts really doesn't let you do that fancy of stuff, or you can't automate the settings itself in there very well without having a lot of conditional extra work. So having the shortcut support on top is also very welcome. And I will just basically say I'll give you free press for it too.
I mean, that's
Abode,
definitely true.
They've got a couple other products, right? They've got this security system, got sensors. Oh yeah, it's mostly all the home stuff. So little keypad and all that. But I think this is great. I do think I'm interested to see what it's like to use a wider system like this, especially with shortcuts. And even, I guess now that I just thought about it, adding shortcut supports gives you that NFC capability that HomeKit support won't. And so that's also a super powerful feature there. It's like you can extend it outside of just smart home devices into the phone, and even conjunction with apps and things like that. So definitely recommended for smart home developers. Wink, wink.
Yeah. That's I guess I didn't consider that added feature, that added benefit of the NFC, where the only thing that NFC and HomeKit have in common, or have kind of crossover, is with the ability to set up HomeKit devices using NFC. And those are only some products that support that. I think LifeX is one of the few that actually has that built in. Most of the other ones use QR codes. Although if you have one of the newer QR codes, that can be turned into an NFC tag setup, which I've done with, I think, Belkin's Waymo lights, Belkin's Waymo plug-in switch. I've since put an NFC tag on there to let it be set up that way.
Nice.
Yes, let us take a quick break so that I can tell you about our sponsor today. And that, folks, is Gabby. What? It's Gabby. Gabby Insurance. Listen, look, let's be real. You are probably overpaying on your car or home insurance right now. And you may even know that you're overpaying on your car or home insurance, but it's so annoying. It's so troublesome. It's so ridiculous to have to go in and make an adjustment. You're going and you're trying to figure out how in the world to save money on that. So you just kind of let it go. You just, I just don't want to have to deal with it. But look, what if there was a technology that could help you find the absolute best deal out there? There is a technology. How'd you like to keep an extra $961 a year in your pocket? That's how much Gabby customers save per year on average on car and home insurance. Per year, $961. That's why when I was shopping for car insurance, I used Gabby. And this is the time of year that we go shopping for insurance. Gabby takes the pain out of shopping for insurance by giving you an apples-to-apples comparison of your current coverage with 40 of the top insurance providers like Progressive, Nationwide, and Travelers. You just link your current insurance account, and in most cases, you're going to receive quotes in a few minutes for the exact same coverage you currently have. In fact, that's what I did. So, with these other methods of trying to figure out if your insurance is good compared to the others, you got to have like 9 tabs open, 9 windows open so that you can pull, okay, this is my coverage on this one. And then you've got to translate, like, does this mean the same thing as this? How do I'm plugging this. It's all this work. And if you want to move forward with one of those quotes that seems to work, the insurance company you selected has to review all of your details and confirm the final price. At that time, there may be adjustments based on any new info that wasn't shared prior, and you may need to speak to a Gabby agent. So in those cases, you will need to speak to a Gabby agent. We just want to put that out there. But in some cases, you might be able to just walk through this process without anything else involved. Now, this is kind of wild. An average online quote, just going to some site somewhere, an average online quote is going to take you 1,100 keystrokes. 1,100 times tippity tapping on that keyboard, clicking around, trying to figure it out. It's ridiculous. Gabby gives you multiple quotes. That means you're getting over thousands of keystrokes in one swoop. It saves you a tremendous amount of time. And when they say a tremendous amount of time, that's for real. I went on and put in my insurance information, and it beep, 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 boop, boop, processing, had it all figured out. And folks, this is I got to say, this is what I like about Gabby, is that not only do they show you ways to help you save money, but they are honest with you. In my case, the car insurance that I have, it was already the best deal that I could have. And Gabby let me know that it was the best deal that I could have. It's not trying to upsell you or anything like that. It says, hey, look, you've already got the best deal. You're good to go. Good for you. And that just makes me trust it even more to know that if I want to, if I needed to, I could find a good deal that maybe, for my home insurance or something like that, as opposed to my car insurance. I love that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Gabby customers save $961 per year on average. And I'm sure you would like to have that extra $961 in your pocket every year. If they can't find those savings again, they will let you know that you already got the best rate out there. And here's the important part. We had a chance to talk to Gabby, and I asked them, look, our listeners are very wise. Our listeners are very smart and are very protective of their privacy. And you tell me about, typing in account information for my insurance company. Tell me about that so that I know that, I know how this works and can make sure that we're being true to our listeners out there. And the good thing is they don't sell your info. The privacy policy is available online. You're not going to get spam and robocalls. One time it's actually when I was moving to California for TWiT, and I went online looking at a moving company, and I typed in my information like a fool. And within a day, I had like 100 emails from different moving services trying to get in touch with me, phone calls, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Leo, when he did this, he put in his information from it was sort of like a burner account, and was using that to kind of test Gabby. Folks, fantastic that even now, after so many days of having tried this out, still no spam calls, no robocalls, nothing like that. No, Gabby is not interested in selling your info or sending spam your way. That is not what the company is for. It is for helping you find the best deal on your car insurance and your home insurance. So look, you know it, I know it. You're probably overpaying on car and home insurance. It's so easy to see how much Gabby can save you. It's totally free to check out, and there's no obligation at all. You just go to Gabby.com/STT. That's GABI.com/STT. I'm serious. If you're listening to this right now, just go over to Gabby.com/STT. Just go over there and just see. There's no hurt in seeing if you are getting the best deal on your car insurance or home insurance. And all you have to do is head to Gabby.com/STT and check it out and see if you've got the best deal out there. So I was proud to have had the best deal, but I know Leo and Lisa saved a bunch of money on their home insurance using Gabby. So there's probably a chance that you'll get a good deal out there. Gabby.com/STT. Thanks so much to Gabby for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. All righty, Matthew, what is the next bit of news for us?
I feel like we should save some of those because I've got some other ideas on how to incorporate those into feature stories. But
okay.
I want to do my shortcut stuff. I'm just taking over because I'm too obsessed with this right now, and it's going to be so good. So
all right. So tell me about your shortcut stuff.
So I've been on a bit of a journey with shortcuts, as anybody who has heard me mention how I have over 1,000 of them, and it's been terrible because that's too many shortcuts. That's not a shortcut when you have to go pick out of a giant list. And for some reason, it took me way too long to just think of, why don't I just make one shortcut that does the 8 things that I was thinking about, but just in a menu, and then it's just easier for people to share. And so I have no idea why it took me this long. It's very simple, but I've started to basically smash all my shortcuts to pieces. I tweeted that I've deleted 500 of them. I'm about to delete the other half and more because I'm turning them all into those single shortcuts. And I've got a great example for you today. I've got 3 of them. One of them has 79 actions. The other has 66 and the other has 24, which would have been, I think this was like 30 to 40 shortcuts. So this is just I'm just going to move past the part where I'm dumb and go to the part where I look smart.
Yeah, so, that's good. That's good.
Basically, it was like every folder that was full of shortcuts, that folder is now just a single shortcut. So I wanted to share 3 this week that are related to this podcast and listening to podcasts, as well as how I produce it, and then also how you can find more from TWiT, basically, because there's a lot of related links, and I turned it all into a handy little shortcut. So this first one, maybe you can help me find a slightly better name, but I called it Friend of the Podcast just because, I don't know, there's a phrase like friend of the show, this person that is related to the show. I wish we could show it a little bit on screen better, but unfortunately there's not a super great way to do that. But this basically has a menu full of, I can just read it out. I think it's 8 different options are to automatically pick a station for you, to let you choose a station, to listen to your HomePod if you have one, to pick from your various podcasts and immediately play it, to search and subscribe to a new podcast, to grab the RSS link of any podcast, to share a list of all the podcasts that you listen to, and if you're using Overcast, to open the audio or take a current clip and then open it on YouTube. And so this is a fancy way to use shortcuts to listen to podcasts in all sorts of ways. The first one, Auto Station, is a tool that I've made that basically it's after a certain time of day, it will play a certain podcast station, which is just it's not super obvious, but in the podcast app, you can create playlists, quote unquote, that are called stations. So that's why I've named them this way. But basically in the evening, I want to listen to my evening podcasts. And during the day before that, I want to listen to productive type podcasts, things related to my job. So this will basically, when I press that, it will just, depending on the time of day, automatically pick it for me. The pick a station one lets me pick between those other stations that I've curated. So my favorite podcasts, technology, I've got some for being a YouTube creator and things like that. So it's an easy way to jump into those. Listen in the office just immediately plays it on my HomePod. Pick from podcasts lets me choose every single from one of the podcasts and just immediately start playing it. Search and subscribe, pretty straightforward. If you hear about a podcast, you can run the same shortcut and then just go find the link and it'll add it to podcasts immediately. Get Rss Feed was sort of an example that I wanted to share with people so that if you did find a podcast, but you wanted to listen to it somewhere else and it wasn't available in that app, you could search this, grab the iTunes link, and then put it into Overcast, for example. Or I guess I don't want to encourage this, but I think that's the problem with the Joe Rogan app is that it's not available searchable in the podcast app anymore. Or that was just the specific example where they weren't basically playing nice with the podcast directories, but you could still subscribe via RSS. I don't recommend listening to Joe Rogan. No, I'm just going to leave it out there. Share my podcasts. I thought this was good because it was just takes the titles of your podcasts and makes a list of them so that you could share it with somebody, because sharing what podcasts you listen to is kind of like, what are you going to go find the links and then send them to them one by one or something like that? I feel like most people wouldn't bother doing that. So it's just like a quick way to share all your podcasts. And then the last part of it uses Overcast, shares timestamps in their URLs. So if you're listening to a podcast, it'll be like you're 20 minutes into it. I found a way to convert that into seconds and then make for the same if there's an RSS feed for a YouTube channel where there's a video version of the podcast, like this, for example, you could be listening live and then be like, oh, I want to see what they're talking about. And then it would convert the link into the YouTube link at the right moment and open it, and then you can just watch, which is awesome. Like, I love this, and I want it to expand to Apple Podcasts, but unfortunately, I think Castro did add it because I told them to, because of this. But it is not available with Apple Podcasts right now. But this is, I should have mentioned at the beginning too, these will be available in the show notes for you to get. But this one shortcut, I also am going to keep on my home screen, and then it basically just lets me at any time perform all of those functions for podcasts and kind of listen to a more variety, more new shows when I come across them, different ways to play them across of my speakers and things like that. And I just added some fun stuff at the end too. So that is like a toolkit. Part one. I'm curious what you think. Yeah, they're toolkits for, I think I got in my head to build Siri shortcuts and not workflows, which is fair sometimes. I have a folder now that is just called Siri, and the ones that I specifically use with Siri, I'm keeping in there. But I really did just want to make one tool so that anybody listening could grab it and then not have to basically manage a folder of shortcuts or have some sort of strategy on top of it. It's just like one podcast per subject, basically. So yeah, that's friend of the podcast. If you like listening to podcasts, which I would assume you do because you are listening to one right now.
What?
Feel free to get that.
Are you sure?
Another good example then is This Week in Tech. And so I created this as a menu that has the options are subscribe to a show the website, visit the community, watch live on the web, open on YouTube, open on Twitch, set up the IRC chat, open chat on mobile, and then also one for sending feedback to this show. So this is a whole way that people who like Twitch shows or are interested in them can go check out the website. Like I said, there's a page where you have all of the subscribe links. So this just takes you right there. Watching live on the web on YouTube and Twitch are all deep links into our different channels. So depending on your preference. Ooh, my phone just tried to hand off to my HomePod.
No, give it back. Kevin, can you show my screen?
Oh, nice. Oh, okay, you've got the examples there. It is a little bit hard to see.
Yeah, unfortunately, I guess I could. I was thinking that it needed to be tall, but if I make it, go back to Matthew for a second. I'll adjust here.
Yeah, I can take screenshots in the future and just show it running too, because it's really just going to be a menu and then it's performing the actions for you. But basically, then there's the IRC chat, which is the web-based chat that you can use. And there's even some, let me see, for the one that shows the community, it actually shows a popover instead of opening the URL in Safari. Because I do assume, I think this is one thing I like to do with shortcuts is, so only sometimes I want to actually open a link. If I just want to check a website, I don't want to create new tabs constantly. And so there's a show web page action in shortcuts that's just like, oh, I want to pop into the TWiT community real quick and check out a couple stories and then leave. And then you're not like clogging up your tabs constantly. Maybe you do want it. It just sort of depends. Like the other ones, I was just opening them. Like the chat one does open a web page because you want to keep it open. So just some sort of shortcuts logic there.
For different live streams. So you can open TWiT live on YouTube or open TWiT live on Twitch, not just, go to the twit.tv live. So in theory, if I were to open that, I wonder, I'm sure you've tested this, does it open the actual app or does it always kind of see? And that's awesome. So then it goes straight to Twitch, which is good.
Yeah, that's the benefit of the deep linking on iOS is that by using these links, if you don't have the app, it's not just going to error out and say like, oh, you didn't go to the right spot. It can redirect if you have it or not, which is great. That's always something that, even this, I had separate shortcuts for opening on Twitch and opening on YouTube. And my theory was you could pick, but then it's just like, there's 2 web pages, 2 shortcuts you have to get, all that. So combining these all into just single tools is great. And maybe we could figure it out. There might be a way to make this so that you could actually play any Twitch show right away from one shortcut or watch the videos and everything. So maybe I should talk with y'all and make this a little more powerful too. But this is a great start too.
With Patrick, our kind of web developer / jack of all trades, who knows stuff about the TWiT API, that would help give you the API, baby.
I'll put this in the show notes too, but I just did a stream yesterday with Aaron from Airtable he has his own side channel that's called Automate All the Things. And I taught him, he was the one building an iPad or a shortcut on his iPad to make an API request to Airtable. And it was basically, I don't want to say simple, but it wasn't too complicated like I tend to do. He was like, slow down, let's just do this one part. So if people are curious about a more advanced style of shortcuts, that's available, and I highly recommend it. And then I've got one more that is from, or do you want to take a quick break?
So Matthew has one other awesome. Oh, let me change that back, Kevin. Matthew has one other awesome shortcut that he wants to show us. So, Matthew, what is the final shortcut, and will there be air horns that play because you've said the name of the movie in the movie? Because that's what happens whenever. Yeah.
So that last shortcut is Smart Tech Today. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, I should have it in the shortcut to make those sound effects. Dang it!
You need an air horn shortcut.
Exactly. Oh, trust me. I have a soundboard one that I'm working on.
Oh, good.
But this last one is how I produce this show, and so it's a little different because I'm not actually doing the post production. But I have a series of steps, and I've had these shortcuts again for a very long time. I use them regularly, but I never wanted to share it because it was always kind of like a whole process that has interrelated parts, isn't always relevant to anyone or everyone, but this is how I do it. And it's not only just through this, but this is how it helps me get forward, and especially if I'm staying busy, just kind of pop in and pop out as I need to, which is nice. So it's got a menu. Again, most of these are all menu based now just because it lets me turn it into a multi-tool. But the functions are message Mikah, research stories, read the pieces, grab the articles, outline the show, turn on the lights, open the chat, and on Twitch again also. And then I have one, it isn't actually included in this post about a new episode, and then open the Slack and open the TWiT community. So first, very simple, message Mikah. We always communicate about the show in just little bursts and things like that over iMessages. And so I actually thankfully deleted your contact card so that it wasn't just sharing your information with anybody who got the shortcut, because I've accidentally done that before. I didn't know that it inherited if I put in a contact card into the messages action, it will stay there when you share it. Good tip there.
But that's good to know.
Does a quick little pop over. And this is nice, especially because it is just like sometimes when you want to send a quick thing about the show, like I've developed this so I go through the shortcut itself versus going into messages and trying to find our little feed. It's like, I'm thinking about the show, just go this way, and I know I need to message you.
Now I know where I stand because you're one of my pinned messages at the top of my iMessage, so it's fine.
I don't remember who I have in there, although I think it got wiped out at one point. Love beta stuff. The other ones, and I actually built this slightly inefficiently because this was built a while ago and Apple's updated it. But I have the research stories one is, I hope they added these more advanced news actions because of something like seeing that I was doing this of anytime you would go to a story in the news app, it would donate or category, it would donate an action into shortcuts that's just like, oh, like here's the smart home, read about smart home stuff. And I did that for every single subject that I wanted to do. I would go into the app and then it would send the little thing back to shortcuts. They did add a open section in news app, thankfully, so you can just go in and specify ones that you're subscribed to. But basically this makes it really easy for me to go in and just see different stories, headlines throughout the week of what's happening in this space, and also not open the news app and see like COVID news and all, like terrible things happening all the time. Like I don't want to go through or just sort through all of my own junk that I'm interested in. This helps me just get right to the work part. So that's super handy. Then I have, it looks like it might not have synced to my phone. Read Pieces just opens Instapaper, which is where I share the shortcuts or the stories in. And now that I mentioned it, I actually added a function at the top. So if you run the shortcut from the share sheet, it will save it into Instapaper tagged Smart Tech Today, and then just stop running the shortcut. So like, this is truly a multi-tool where if I run it from the home screen, it'll show me a menu. But if I run it from the share sheet, it'll just save it for me, and it doesn't do anything else, which is nice. That's one of my fancier things with some of these multi-tool shortcuts that I'm doing is like, if you run them from the share sheet, they'll still work as a share sheet thing, and I don't need a second one that's just for the share sheet. I've said that too many times, share sheet.
Share sheet.
Aaron on the stream was like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a very iOS term for when you share and there's all the little buttons there.
That's interesting. Yeah,
exactly.
See,
like,
I got to be careful of that too, because I'm sure I've said share sheet to my partner, and he's probably like, "What the heck is a share sheet? Is that like the top sheet on the bed?"
So a couple other I've got in here. This is one of my favorites, is called Grab Articles, and so this will look in the Smart Tech Today folder in Instapaper. Let me choose the stories that I want to pull out. And then it will get the titles and the links, and then it separates them using, I use this on my iPad, the tab button, because when you separate stuff by tabs and then you paste it into the Google Doc that we use, it will automatically spread it across the multiple cells that we use. So we have like title, notes, and URL. I don't add any notes at that point, so it's like title, tab, URL. And then when I paste this into the Google Doc, it will format it into our entire spreadsheet for us. And so this literally does save me like 20 to 30 minutes of just copying titles and links out of stories. It's like I don't ever want to do that.
Exactly. So, that's one of the places where you truly do see, I think, the benefit of doing this. This is something like Text Expander or Keyboard Maestro on the Mac, those tools that I super love, trying to express that love to other people. The Keyboard Maestro and Text Expander especially are my Siri shortcuts. So it's like in the little diagram, it's like Mikah : Text Expander : Matthew : Siri shortcuts. So I totally understand that of trying to the joy that you get from these working and doing what you need them to do and wanting to share that joy with other people. I feel that whenever it comes, it's like, oh man, you should use this tool. I swear to God, you're going to love it. So yeah, having those time-saving moments like that are really special.
Especially for this show. I've got a couple others of the deep link into our Slack chat is really nice too. And then one that I have to fix this a little bit because I think you guys changed your website, but it's in the same way. Once the episode is up, I can look at the podcast feed and the YouTube feed, and then all of the links that are on our channel, on our episode pages, and scrape that all out and turn it into a blog post and just immediately post that with all of the links. But it does use what's called regular expressions, which is a whole programming way to isolate those links. And something changed like a couple months ago. And so it was breaking it. And so I've just my problem is that I got so used to using this that just the idea of like manually creating the blog post, even though it would only take me 15 minutes, I just like don't do it because I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I have to fix my shortcut, or I just don't. But it really has made, I think a lot of these can be somewhat simple, but for me, it has made the show just like integrate into my life a lot easier. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of stuff. I make YouTube videos. I have a website. I have all of these shortcuts and everything. And it just context switching is really difficult sometimes. And especially those things like gathering the news stories, it just made it so much easier. And especially I don't use my computer at all for the show, except for the moment we start recording. And then otherwise, I can grab the stories from my phone on the go. I make our Google Doc and prepare the entire outline. It's easier for me to do it on the iPad than it is on my computer because of these shortcuts. So it has like enabled me to do this while not taking up as much of my time or energy or focus, and also dedicate that then to what are we actually talking about, not just the production of it. It's actually just letting me focus on the material and the stories and the shortcuts, for example. So those are all a series of examples of kind of like a personal one and then sort of a community-based or exploring a new I guess if people are listening to this, they already know TWiT, but if people want to get into something new, one shortcut with multiple links can help you. So it's basically a big bookmark for what I would do on TWiT. And then how to produce it too. You can make those little pain points go a lot smoother, and especially anything related to web or articles and stuff like that can be automated pretty smoothly with shortcuts. So those are my examples. And I think just to come back to how I'm building them, I've had all this stuff for a very long time and haven't felt like it made sense, because I would just be explaining like how I got an RSS feed from an iTunes URL. And like, maybe you don't care about that, but you do like podcasts and you want to listen smoother. And now you can check it out in that one shortcut too. So instead of this being 35 links for you to download, it's just 3, and you can check it out and delete whatever you don't want to use pretty easily from that menu. So
nice.
I'm personally excited because I felt so stuck with shortcuts for a long time, because all of this functionality has been there. I've been using it, but to make it shareable for other people has been difficult. And it's like hard to communicate that value when it is so piecemeal. And so now I'm giving you the whole meal in one. And I'll probably update some of these shortcuts over time, but otherwise some of those are like the main ways I use for listening to podcasts. And it helps me to communicate too that there's a lot there, and also that's all there is really. Like, there's not this mysterious world where you could be listening to podcasts fully automated at all times. Like, you could do that too. There are other ways, but I think this is helping me like really hone in on that value for what people want to get out of shortcuts, and not just endlessly optimize my workflow or something like that. So I hope these are useful, and I hope this was a good way to, I'll have to figure out ways to show it. But again, it's always audio. So if you are listening along anytime in the future, get those shortcuts from the show notes and open them up and just kind of follow along with what I'm doing. Assuming you're not driving, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you there, you get a whole other thing to figure out. All righty, let us move on to our picks of the week. I think I'll start with my pick of the week. It is a low-tech pick that has brought me joy because I remember going to, in Kansas City, Missouri, I remember going to the Museum of Modern Art there. And the Museum of Modern Art always had this super, super cool gift shop. And in the gift shop, they had all these neat things you could buy. And one thing that I always wanted to buy was this board, they called it. I can't remember the full name of it, but it was some sort of board, and you could write on it with a stylus and then erase it immediately afterward. But it would stay on there while you had written on it. And it wasn't chalk or anything like that. It was somehow digital. And I didn't understand how it worked at the time. But every time, because every couple of years, there would be some field trip to the Museum of Modern Art. And so I would, sort of look at it longingly. And it was always too much money, $60 to $75, which when you're a kid in elementary and middle school is obviously not something that you can just drop. And then, time passed, and my long time passed, and my partner was unpacking a bunch of old stuff that he had from his previous job. And at his previous job, you weren't allowed, for security reasons, you could not have pencils and pens or any kind of any kind of writing utensil that was permanent, where you could take it and leave with it and then come back. And so he had this little tablet that was like the one from the Museum of Modern Art. And I was like, oh my gosh, you have one of those. I haven't thought about those in ages. And I thought, he's kind of a cheapskate's the wrong word. He's frugal. He's very frugal. And I thought, oh, how in the world did you convince yourself to spend that money? He's like, what do you mean? They're like $10. And so I went online a while back and ended up getting one. I've got one here. And they're available online for, $10. And essentially what you have is an LCD screen, and the stylus doesn't have anything in it. It's just a plain old stylus. And you write with the stylus onto the screen. And mine here is green, so you can see the green line that I've drawn. And it will stay on there until you hit the trash button, at which point it refreshes the screen and erases it. And I can't remember if this one has it. We have two of them, one on the refrigerator. And the one on the refrigerator has a lock button. So if you want to put something on there and keep it on there, then the lock switch will let you do that. But it's got a little button battery in it. And it's a great little surface for taking tiny notes with. So you can take those notes and keep them on there for as long as you want. And then after you're done, that's hard to see, you just erase them. And I don't know, there's something kind of delightful about this very low-tech solution to having something that is reusable as opposed to taking physical notes, but it still feels physical, because I do like taking notes in a physical way. An iPad with a stylus is another way of doing this. But this kind of like,
that's $1,000.
It feels Star Trek-y, which is nice. And I could just take this anywhere I want to. It's very, very thin. If I drop it, I'm not going to feel bad about it. And also it's probably going to be okay. It has a magnet on the back so that you can, stick it on a refrigerator if you want to. Burke, one of our engineers, is currently letting me know that he has to buy two of them now. I totally understand. I feel like people who are into tech would find this kind of thing just kind of delightful and useful. And there's so many uses for having, again, it feels like a pad it's PADD from Star Trek, where you would have multiple pads where one is a book and another one is, the sort of latest report on the data. And so I can just sit here and take my little notes, and it's very, I don't know, there's just something about it that I really like. But for folks that are looking for the one, of course, we'll include a link in the show notes. The one that I have is the ZenHome LCD writing tablet. It's 12 inches and it's available in the Amazon App Store. ZenHome has them for $9.99 a piece with Prime shipping, and they come in blue and pink colors. There are other tablets out there because it's basically just, once you understand the concept, there are a bunch of companies that make them. So you might find a different one that feels more right for you. I happen to have just chosen the ZenHome. I think based on ratings and size was what I wanted it for. So it was the right size for me. It's just a delightful little tablet that does what I want. And Boogie Board was the name of the company that made the one that I was talking about. And folks, I really don't think you should buy a Boogie Board, because they are the same thing that you get for $9.99, but because of the brand, the popular brand, they cost $30. Wow. So don't get a Boogie Board when you can spend $10 on one that does the exact same thing for far less money. And like I said, there are a bunch of brands out there. There's New Yes, Tech Boss, spelled TECBOSS. There's loads of different brands out there. I went with, again, the ZenHome LCD writing tablet. And this is it. Really nice.
Nice. I'm jealous that it's like, I always want to take my iPad to places and write on it temporarily, just like that. But it's like, you're writing on an iPad, or you have to worry about what you're doing with the iPad afterwards, or like leaving it in my car or something is something I never want to do. Even like the beach, I could see. Like, I guess I was imagining, because you can't really save it at all, but you could just take a picture or two.
And that's what I've done.
$10,
Yeah. Anytime that I want it afterward, anytime that I wanted to save the notes that were on there, I just took a photo very easily. And so, yeah, you should totally get one. Again, $9.99. That's nothing. And then, like I said, we've got one on the refrigerator, and I have this one that sits next to my desk. And with the magnet, I stick it on the leg of my desk, and I just grab it real quick and can write with it. So it's the battery lasts about 2 years before you ever need to replace it. And at the end of those 2 years, it's just so that you can erase it afterward.
Wow. Yeah, it's got a battery life of like 2 years. I guess that's okay. And it said it's just a coin battery. Like you can buy it at the corner store or whatever. So
yep,
that's pretty slick. My pick is on the opposite side of the spectrum. Here's this like very low level technology. This is a thing that I just saw today, but I do want to mention the service too. Frame.io is a tool that I use to upload my YouTube videos in basically simpler quality. It's a way to collaborate and comment on videos. But the way that I use it is when I have like a rough edit of my video, I will go through and watch it with this and leave comments along the way, or other people can leave comments and be like, oh, there was a missed frame here or something like that. Or like, you're boring, I hate this. Leave that to myself. No. But this service, which is already just really helpful for collaboration, and that kind of capability is really neat. But they have a long-term goal, and they've sort of revealed another thing today, where there's hardware and software that you can put on like cinema quality cameras that will essentially transmit. It's called a proxy version, so it's not the full quality footage, but in real time or near real time to any other computer back into their service. And also create what are called like dailies of the best shots that you actually got out of the day. And this is basically how people make movies: is the production team goes out and films it, and then at night everybody watches, or the next morning watches the daily from before, and it's like, what did we get? What did we not get? How do we move forward with this? So this is hardware and software to send it from the camera in real time up to the cloud and back out. So you could have almost like remote sets, or the ability to just film the stuff and then immediately have it on your computer. And then basically once you fully process the actual high quality footage, it can replace that back into your timeline, and just so you can basically work with really low quality versions, but edit it up. This seems amazing. It seems like you could almost like make the movie in not like really make it in real time, but so much of production is just like waiting for your footage to transfer, or where is the footage? Who has it? Has this person reviewed it or not yet? Could kind of cut out a lot of that. And so this is just super interesting. But if you are making any type of video, I don't know, YouTube or internet or whatever, frame.io is the service. And I think it's $15 a month. It's free also if you only have a couple of users or only a couple gigs of footage. So free to check out, which is really nice too. I like it. Yeah, it helps me get out of my own head with footage and watch it on the screen that most people are going to view it on too. That's like, I'll take it on my phone and go watch somewhere else before I come back to my desk. So it's just like, I can send it off to anybody on the internet. They can leave comments at the specific moment where the comment needed to be made, and then I can go back and edit it right away. So
yeah,
very cool tool.
A friend of mine is a director, and he kind of does all of the things, but he has his production company, and Frame.io is, I know, one of the tools that he's used for quite a while for this. And I think, in fact, he's sent me links before that were Frame.io links for me to go and see, because I did some voiceover work for him for some commercials, and I was able to, watch back through that and leave comments immediately. Dropbox is starting to add that functionality to video in the same way, where it's kind of time code linked. But Frame.io is kind of purpose built for this, so I find it interesting.
I can drop it back into Final Cut, and then it'll be at the moments where I need to edit it also. And that's like super powerful just because it is, I mean, I'll do like a pretty bad rough cut of my video, and then I'll go and leave like 60 comments of like, this should be a couple frames shorter. And sometimes that extra eye, and for me, it really is getting away from the same computer, because if I'm sitting at an iMac for hours and watching the footage and things like that, you're not going to notice it. And just getting out of your, like going on a walk and watching the video while you're walking and leaving comments or something like that can be helpful. So it's a nice part of that workflow.
Cool. All right. So that, folks, brings us to the end of another episode of Smart Tech Today. Thank you so Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on a future questions episode of Smart Tech Today, send those to stt@twit.tv. If you are tuning in live, then you already know this, but if you'd like to tune in live and watch the show, you can head to twit.tv/live, where we record new episodes every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, or 21:30 UTC. Although I have to check if that's correct, because I got an email not too long ago about UTC, and someone was correcting me very kindly, because that time zone is one, or that time version is one that I'm not very good at. But I think the website is a coded thing where you plug in one thing and it kind of figures those out. So I don't know that a human is going in and typing those in, but maybe they are. I don't know. Point is, definitely 4:30 p.m. Eastern, which is 1:30 p.m. Pacific. You can check out the show. But the best way to get the show is by subscribing to the show. twit.tv/STT will get you to our page where you can subscribe in audio and video formats across all sorts of podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Matthew Cassinelli, if folks want to follow you online, where do they go to do that?
You can follow me at MatthewCassinelli.com, and I have a newsletter at MatthewCassinelli.com/newsletter where I write about shortcuts every week. And I just started switching it to Wednesdays instead of doing a bunch of work on the weekends, which turns out isn't a good idea. So sending it during the week now instead, which is nice. So yeah, new shortcuts every week there. What about you?
For me, you can find me online at chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, which has links to all the places I exist online. But I'm pretty much at Mikah Sargent on all the things. So that's where you can find me. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for us. And that just means it's time to say good afternoon to our smart assistants.
Have a good one.
Goodbye.
Sometimes the news of the week is best told by the people making and breaking it, and that is the essence of Tech News Weekly. Join me, Jason Howell, along with my co-host Mikah Sargent, as we interview the people who are breaking the news that you're probably already talking about. Plus, sometimes we actually get the people who are making the news, the people behind the story. That's Tech News Weekly on twit.tv.